Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the SilentPunt podcast. I'm your host, Henny Hemmons. Travis isn't joining us this week. This week, I've got a special guest. Minnesota Twins relief pitcher Justin Topa is going to join us and talk about his journey. And it's an inspirational one, to say the least. He has had some tremendous ups and downs in his career. That's why I wanted to come on first and kind of give you a little bit of background information on him and what he's had to overcome in his career. And we'll touch on a handful of this stuff here in a minute when I speak with him. But Justin is originally from upstate New York, Binghamton, New York. He was a bat boy for the AA team there growing up. Went to Long Island University to play baseball. Was drafted a couple of times there, and finally signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who took him in the 2013 draft in the 17th round. Spent 2013, 2014 with the Pirates in the minors, working his way up. Then had, in 2015, he had to miss the whole season with Tommy John surgery. That was actually Justin's second Tommy John surgery. He had one in college as well. Rehabs, comes back. He spends 2016 in the Pirates minor league system, getting ready for the following season, 2017, with the Pirates, when he is unceremoniously and surprisingly released. Has kind of some life lessons to teach us and talk about. With that, he winds up in independent baseball, which is kind of like the last rung of professional baseball. Slowly works his way back. The Rangers pick him up in 2018. 2019 through like 22, he's up and down with the Milwaukee Brewers. We got a chance to see him play here a little bit outside of Milwaukee ourselves. Up and down both with like the minor league team and the major league team. He also had some injuries here and there in his time in Milwaukee. Fast forward to 2023, gets traded to the Seattle Mariners. And that's really where his major league career kind of took off for him. Had a great season that year. Professional sports, he surprisingly gets traded that offseason to the Minnesota Twins, where he spent the last couple of years and is really doing amazing there now. So we talk about all that and a little bit more, so enjoy. Justin, thanks for joining us on Silent Punt. How you doing?
Good, not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm very good. I'm very good. You're heading to spring training in how many days?
A little over, I guess, a week. Yeah, today's Wednesday, so about a
Okay.
week from now, we'll be heading down south, escape the cold.
Pitchers and catchers. Yeah, escape the cold. You're in Pennsylvania, my own stopping grounds, right?
Yes, yep, just outside of Philly. We're had a couple storms. I'm looking out right now, and the driveway's clear, but the yard has about 10 inches of snow on it. So,
Nice, just like Wisconsin. Well, we'll get right at it. You were in the minors for a long time, eking out a living. I know a lot of people don't know how difficult the life is of a minor league baseball player. Um, I was a young coach moving around the country, not making a whole lot of money. Similar kind of lifestyle to a minor league baseball player. Then you make the majors, and one of my biggest questions, now I'm 50 years old, I would have asked this when I was 12. What's the food like in the major leagues?
it's probably the best spreads you'll ever experience. That's probably the biggest difference in the minor leagues, major leagues, or one of them. You go from eating. It's not so anymore. It's gotten a little better on the minor league side. But when I was first coming up and when I was in indie ball, a lot of peanut butter and jellies, a lot of there's like random rotisserie chickens that were just thrown out there. So you'd scrape at them or whatever was left over in the fridge from the night before of the post game meal. But no, in the big leagues, it's like pretty much whatever you want for the most part.
And you, do you still, I remember hearing this and being shocked by it. Do you still, on top of all the spreads, get a per diem every day?
On the road, we do, yeah. During the road trips, we'll get a meal per diem, and then during spring training as well, we get a per day per diem. So, yeah, that helps. I guess pays for breakfast and maybe some coffees, the $8 coffees or whatever they are nowadays.
Right. I also see like guys in the dugout and the bullpen snacking on stuff. What a game is a long game in baseball, although it's shorter now, which is awesome. But what's your favorite thing to snack on during the game, or do you not at all?
A little bit. In years past, I didn't really snack much, but I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, I've kind of gotten into the snack bag every once in a while, especially the days where I know I have a down day, I'm not pitching that day. So those are the days where I try to stay away from the candy bag. But I would say on average, I'd probably just get some sort of protein bar, Cliff Bar, or we have like these little fig bars that I'll have one of those, munch on that. Have these like honey zingers, the they're like little, they look like waffles, essentially like a mini waffle with some honey and stuff like that to get some energy. So yeah, I'm not a huge snacker, but if the candy bag's around when I'm on a down day, that gets torn through.
What's your go-to candy?
Oh man, probably Sour Patch watermelons. In years past, they've had like the nerd ropes, so I'll probably munch on one of those if I'm not throwing that day.
Nice. I wasn't thinking of this at all, but we're talking about hanging out and baseball and snacking. I'm a decent amount older than you, and tobacco was huge back when I was younger. Do guys in the majors chew tobacco anymore? Dip? Do any of that stuff? Is that prevalent or no?
Not as much as what it used to be. There'll be a handful of guys on the team, but I would say more so now. Guys are kind of getting away from that. Every once in a while, there'll be a handful of guys that do like the pouches, like the Zyn pouches and stuff like that. But um, you know, gone are the days of the guys like I'm trying to think of who used to
Lenny
have like the
Dykstra?
big cheek full, yeah, like Lenny Dykstra, like um, all that stuff with Levi Garrett and all that. That's not too many guys are doing that. Maybe a couple coaches here and there, but not too many.
Guys take such good care of each other or of themselves now. It's crazy. What we talked about food in the minors, but what was either generically or for you particularly, what was the hardest part about being a minor leaguer or playing in the minor leagues?
I think just like the whole traveling aspect, and it's gotten a little better now. The past handful of years, they've kind of rescheduled how the travel is in the minor leagues. So now they play essentially 6 game series against the team. So if you travel, let's just say you travel to Nashville for a series, you're there from Tuesday to Sunday, and then every Monday is an off day. Where back when I was first drafted, it was the same 3 or 4 game series. You're going, like I played in Charleston, West Virginia in 2014 in Low A. So that was our home stadium, and then the whole league was up to Lakewood, New Jersey, and then all the way down to like Rome, Georgia. So it was like anywhere in between. We had one trip where I think we went like Rome, Georgia, back to Charleston, West Virginia to Lakewood, New Jersey, then back to Kannapolis, North Carolina, and that was like a week span. Like it was nothing. So a lot of long bus trips, a lot of hotels with you're rooming with another guy, and you're trying to navigate that in and of itself, and then just being away from family. So I think those were the big ones, was the travel aspect of it, and then being away from family for an extended period of time.
I coached with a few guys that coached like small college in the Dakotas and the upper Northwest, and they had some bus stories. If you can remember, what's the longest bus trip that you took?
Man, I know like when I was in indie ball, I played indie ball for a year and a half, and our league was New York, New Jersey. We had 3 teams. The league's no longer existing. It was the Can-Am League. So 6 total teams. There's 3 in New York, New Jersey, and then 3 up in Canada. So I was in Rockland County, New York, and there's 2 teams in Jersey. Those were like commuting trips, so you kind of just drive to and from. But then the bus trips were, I want to say the longest to Canada was like 11 hours, maybe 10 plus. So yeah, those and like I said, that one year in when I was in Charleston, West Virginia, I know that Rome, Georgia to Lakewood, New Jersey. Obviously, we had a stop in between, but those were probably 8 plus each direction, and yeah, some long ones. So that's for sure.
Joke for sure. Well, That leads to the next question, which is whether it's the majors or the minors, baseball's a grind. What are some things either that you did with your teammates back then in the minors or that you do now outside of family, outside of baseball, but just to have fun and keep things light during that grind of the season?
Yeah, I've always been like a big breakfast guy, so I try and get up a little early, and whatever city we are in, get a group of guys, go hit up a local breakfast spot. I have on my phone in my notes section all the cities with some different some good spots to hit up. So I like doing that and going to get some coffee and just hang out with the guys. After the games, it's not so much hang out. We don't really hang out much anymore after the games. When I was in indie ball, it was kind of like, all right, that's kind of when things got going. We'd be hanging out and playing cards and stuff like that after the game. But in recent years, especially with family and growing family, if they travel with me on the road, it's usually game ends, grab something to eat, and get back to the hotel room and get ready for the next day. But I think for me, just being around the guys, like those early mornings, you kind of just get to explore the city, whatever city we're in, whether it be Chicago or Cleveland. Have a couple spots, go check some stuff out that maybe guys are visiting for the first time in that city, and we get to go to places that a few of us have been to before. So those are kind of my go-tos.
I wasn't thinking of that. Your most of your games are in the evening. What for a 6 or 7 p.m. start time? What time do you have to get to the park?
Yeah, if let's just say a 7 o'clock game, it's usually the first bus is around noon. So usually the first bus is mostly coaches, unless you have some treatment and stuff that you need to get done with the training staff. If you want to get some stuff done early, get in early for a lift or what have you. But I would say normal first bus for players is around 12:30, 1 o'clock on a road day. At home, usually same thing. I'm probably getting to the field around 12:30, 1 o'clock. We usually don't start stuff as pitchers. We have like throwing program before batting practice, usually like an hour and a half before batting practice. So I like to get there around, let's just say 2 hours before our pitcher stretch. So if our pitcher stretch is at 3 o'clock, I'll get there around 1 o'clock and give myself some time to pop in. They have back to the food spreads. They have the spread open pretty much all day for us. So pop in there, grab maybe like a lunch or something quick, go get a quick workout in, and then start prepping for pitcher stretch. And yeah, then that really kind of starts our day. We do that, and then batting practice happens, and if we have any scouting report meetings, usually happens after that. And then next thing you know, it's 4:30, and we got a game in an hour and a half or so, 2 hours, and kind of get going.
You're a relief pitcher, and I know there's days that you probably know you can pitch or days that you won't pitch. How different is the preparation on those two different days?
Yeah, if it's one of those days where I know for sure, like let's say I pitched back-to-back games, usually we try not to go three in a row, especially early in the season. Obviously, if it's August, then all hands on deck. But yeah, I think that those days where I know for sure I'm off, I try and get a lot of recovery stuff done. We're very fortunate in the sense that we have a lot of training staff. We have 4 trainers that are available. I guess 5 trainers that are available when we're at home, 4 on the road, and we have a massage therapist. So kind of go maybe see the massage therapist, do some like recovery stuff, like a little flush, maybe like light workout. And then we have kind of every modality you can think of. We got the hot and cold tubs. We have at home we have a hyperbaric chamber. We have some other different things for recovery, like the Normatec compression leg sleeves and stuff like that. So I'll depending on the day, depending on what the workload was the previous days, to try and get some treatment, some soft tissue work done. But for days where I know like I'm available and I could pitch that night, it pretty much I have the same routine, I would say, for the most part. I like I said, I get there a couple hours before stretch and get moving around, work on some stuff. Sometimes, like if let's just say I had pitched the night before and I'm available, but it's kind of one of those like, all right, it might be like a lighter outing. Just let's say if I threw a lot the night before, I might treat that a little differently than I would if I hadn't thrown in 2 days. But kind of just see how the body feels getting to the field. Once I start moving around, playing catch, see how that feels, and then kind of go from there.
And I'll wrap this part up on this. All right, so you play the game, game's over, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Is it in, shower, gone? What is the general post-game procedure after a game?
Yeah, for me, if I had thrown that night, usually I'll get into the training room, strength or training room, weight room, do some like shoulder stuff, shoulder care stuff, a little bit of recovery, crazy over the top, but more so just get some blood flowing a little bit and start that flush process, recovery process. Get into the kitchen, get something to eat quick, obviously shower up, and after that, there's not much hanging out anymore. Every once in a while, depending on game times and stuff like that, guys will kind of mingle and we'll have like media availability and stuff like that if they pop into the clubhouse. For the most part, it's game ends and within the next half hour or so, I'm kind of finishing up my shoulder care stuff if I throw that night. If not, then if I have to do anything before I leave from a treatment standpoint, you get that done post game, and then just shower up, get something to eat, and usually it's out to the car and heading back to the house.
A far cry from Lenny Dykstra and John Kruk after the game, and as after the game, it's a whole different ball game.
Yep, it's
Taking
definitely
a step
changed.
back, your journey. We talked a little bit beforehand about it. Pirates draft you. You're in the minors. Spend some years doing that. 17 is when they released you. Is that about right?
Yep, spring training in 2017.
Take us through where you were in your life and in your head at that point.
Yeah, the year prior, I guess the end of spring training of 2015, I had hurt my elbow. We were kind of doing some stuff, trying to get some imaging done with that, and it ended up being a torn UCL in my elbow, which was resulted in the second Tommy John surgery that I had in my career. I had had one in college. 2015, have my second elbow surgery, major elbow surgery. Rehab all of 2015. Majority of 2016, I rehabbed. I got back into a handful of games in kind of middle of August, early September, maybe threw in 2 or 3 games. And so going into the offseason, it was kind of like, all right, we're healthy. You get ready for a full season in 2017. Get to spring training and, thought normal spring training, things are going well. I had backed up a few big league games, big league spring training games. Usually they'll send some minor league pitchers over just in case, one of the guys in major league camp kind of either throws a lot, has a long inning. They don't want to, have a crazy pitch count. A minor league guy will pop in to finish an inning. So I did that a bunch of that spring training, but never really got into games. And then ended up being released toward the end. It was maybe with a couple days left of spring training. But yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind. All I kind of ever wanted to do was play baseball and play at the professional level. So it was definitely a gut punch. Kind of caught off guard in the sense, and just at that point, I think I was just very angry with the business side of baseball. Not that I didn't like the game of baseball. I still love the game of baseball. It's my entire life, right? Everything has started, playing catch with my dad in the backyard, and fortunately has gotten to the big leagues from that point. But at that moment, it was like, all right, I'm kind of like over baseball. Didn't know if I wanted to keep playing. Got back home to upstate New York and was trying to figure out next steps. Had a random text call one day from a guy I was drafted with, actually, by the name of Mike Francoso, and he was like, "Hey," he was playing indie ball. He had gotten released the year prior, so he was playing indie ball for a team in New York, not too far from where I grew up. And he was like, "Hey, if you want to still play, like, I'll give your number to the manager and kind of see what happens," type thing. And I still joke to this day with that manager and with Mike. I was like, I was hoping he wasn't going to call. I was like, have the writing on the wall, no phone call. All right, I can kind of just, move on and go get away from baseball for a little bit. But after, talking to him, and it kind of was like the perfect storm, being close to home. I had rehab for almost 2 years. Talking to my family, I was like, you know what? I kind of owe it to myself just to go see what happens this year after all that rehab and go play 1 year close to home, have some family come down. It's close enough that they can drive in and out for a couple games. And I ended up having a great year. Statistically, I felt great, had a ton of fun. I always say to people now, like, that was almost the getting released was probably the best thing that happened at that point, just because going to indie ball, it's a lot different than minor league baseball. Independent league, the only goal is to win games. There's not really player development. It's a range of guys. There's some guys that played in the big leagues, some guys that are just out of college and had no professional experience, and then it's anybody in between. So you kind of got out of it what you put into it, in a sense. So if you wanted to be in the weight room every day, working on stuff, trying to get better every day, there was those guys. And then there was the guys where we kind of just, hey, I just want to keep playing as long as I possibly can after college, and kind of fill the void of a year or two before going into the real world. So it was kind of that perfect blend where go out, have fun, and win baseball games. And we were pretty good that year. Like I said, had a great year. And then that off season, kind of in the weird transition again. It's like, okay, well, I'm a free agent, had a great year. Kind of, how do I retire after a year like that I just had? I made the All-Star team for them. So I was throwing for a couple different organizations, trying to get back into affiliated ball. Went to a couple free agent showcases, stuff like that, trying to just get my name back out there. And nothing really ever materialized after that. So then it was back to indie ball to start 2018. And then I would say maybe a month or two into the season, I got picked up by the Texas Rangers and went to AA, and then kind of got back into that affiliated ball rotation with the Rangers. And that led me to Milwaukee, and then kind of just kept going from there.
That I think that's one of the reasons why I was so interested in talking with you. I think you're still a reasonably young guy, but there's so many people in their lives that have something like that happen to them, whether it's personal or professional. I personally, in the middle of my career, got fired unexpectedly, kind of like getting released unexpectedly. And it certainly makes you kind of recalibrate your life. And as you said, it got you back into affiliated ball, but your ups and downs didn't stop there. What was it about your experience in indie ball that maybe has helped you since then continue to overcome, the hurdles that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I just think that for me, that's kind of, if you look at indie ball, just in the general scheme of professional baseball, arguably probably the lowest of lows from a level from, the furthest away from the big leagues, in a sense. And I feel like there's days where like I had the most fun on, showing up to the ballpark on those days in indie ball than I did prior to being when I was with Pittsburgh. It's like, not that there was anything wrong with affiliated baseball, but it's a lot of player development every day. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? Not that that's a bad thing, but you kind of lose track of why you fell in love with the game of baseball, and you lose track of we played baseball in the backyard because it was fun to do with my buddies. You know what I mean? We were doing crazy batting stances, thinking we were Barry Bonds or Derek Jeter, and hitting the home run in Game 7 of the World Series. In professional baseball, it's a job, and there's player development every day. There's a lot of things out of your control. So going to indie ball, it kind of reset my mind, and this is why I play baseball. It's fun to show up to the field every day. It's an honor to have your name on the back of the jersey. Yeah, any day you walk into a clubhouse and you have a jersey hanging in your locker, it's a good day. So, yeah, just taking that time from indie ball and the relationships I built there, it's been huge for my career. I still mess around with guys and say that like every year is my last year, because that's the kind of the mentality I took into that first season in indie ball. It's like, okay, one last year, go out, have fun, see what happens type thing, play with the house's money. So I try and still instill that into my mind that, okay, like this is the last year of me playing, see what happens. And here I am, however many years later, still playing. But no, I think that just those relationships, still talk to a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys, a handful of them are coaches in the minor leagues now and have been able to experience that side of things. And I still talk to the manager that managed me for that year and a half, Jamie Keefe. He's still coaching in the Atlantic League. So those relationships will never go away. And my time there was amazing.
That's awesome. So you're back in in affiliated ball at that point. Bounce around a little bit, then traded to the Mariners. I read an article from that time where somebody in the front office referred to you as the Greek god of ground balls, which was really funny and cool to hear. But more seriously, something specific seemed to happen with you as a pitcher in Seattle. What was it that they did with you, that they taught you, that kind of took your game to the next level?
I think for me, it was just simplifying things. Getting to the big leagues for the first time with Milwaukee, obviously dream come true. COVID year was a little strange, no fans, all that stuff. 2020, 2021, 2022 with Milwaukee kind of was up and down between AAA and the big leagues. I was also hurt for an extended period of time, had another elbow surgery, flexor repair surgery, so I missed a lot of time with that. I think when I got traded to Seattle, it was almost like a fresh start. I was healthy again. I was, motivated to to prove to the Mariners that they made the right move by bringing me in, showing up to spring training. You walk in, and I always say to people that baseball locker rooms and clubhouses are a lot closer knit than what you might think. Especially walking in, to an organization for the first time. Either you know somebody, or you work out with someone in the off season that's best friends with a guy that's now on the team. So there's always like a connection there. So walking to that clubhouse, there's a handful of guys that I knew prior, or had mutual friends, stuff like that. So I think from the first day, it was kind of comfortable. I felt very comfortable sitting down with them. One of the first meetings, we sit down and they're kind of just like, "What do you think you do well? What do you think you need to work on?" And the first thing I said was, at the time, I threw pretty hard, get a lot of ground balls. I feel like I got right-handed hitters out at a very high clip, limit a lot of damage. And I said to him, the things I didn't do well at the time, I struggled with lefties. I kind of changed my pitch mix that off season going into that spring training. I added a cutter and added a couple other things, and they were like, yeah, very similar. And then the first thing that they said was, kind of how do you attack hitters and stuff like that. So we kind of dissected that, and they more so just presented it in a different way than any I had ever heard of it for pitching. A very simplistic matter. They kind of compared it to a roulette wheel, in that every pitch was one spin on the wheel. And imagine if you have money on red and black, and one pitch you have money on red and black. If it lands green, it's not going to happen often. So kind of scrape that last one, next spin, next pitch, go in with everything you got. So it's just being simplistic, getting ahead to hitters, first pitch strikes, stuff like that. It's always preached in baseball as a pitcher and from pitching coaches. But I think they provided a lot of the numbers, like, okay, here's what guys hit in 0-1 counts compared to 1-0 counts. And here it is in 0-2 counts compared to 2-0 counts, and et cetera. So seeing those numbers was eye-opening. It's like, okay, if you just take the thought process of one pitch at a time, whether it be fastball, slider, changeup, cutter, you have your money on red and black, essentially. And just being able to do that and have that mindset of just attack guys, and if bad stuff happens, you get hit, it's not gonna continue every pitch. It's gonna be you wash that one off and you go out next pitch. And whether you one pitch, one out, one hitter, one game, you kind of have that mentality. So that spring training had a great spring training, handful of innings, really well, and ended up not making the team out of camp, but I was called up, I think 4 days later into the season, and kind of just thrown right into the fire. And I think that just from top to bottom, I think the pitching, the people always joke, it's like, okay, all these guys go to Seattle, and then what's the special sauce that Seattle has that no one else has? A lot, resurrecting a lot of guys' careers, or up and down AAA big leagues guys, they go there and they have all this success. I think it's just simplifying pitching. Hey, here's what you do really well. Here's the stuff you don't do extremely well, but we're gonna develop a couple things to make that, whether it be a specific pitch, make that an average pitch instead of a below average pitch. And putting guys in situations to succeed, pitching in certain innings, pitching in certain parts of the lineup, facing as a right-handed pitcher, facing three righties or two righties, and then a lefty that struggles with certain stuff that you might have. So I wouldn't say that there's one specific thing other than just like everything was kind of simplified in a sense.
Yeah, well, as a former coach, I can echo that. The simpler you can make the game, the easier it is. And I'm not going to ask you this question because I promise you we'd stay in your wheelhouse, but I will say that was one of the things that always bothered me as a baseball player when I was young, and still bothers me to this day watching major league games, is hearing people say to hitters, you have to take the first pitch. Because
Yeah.
my thought process was always what you just said, which is he's trying to get ahead of me. So if he's trying to get ahead of me, I might get my best opportunity to hit him on, 0-0. But anyway, have a great year that year. Probably the most innings you had ever pitched in the majors by far.
Yep.
Really successful. And then traded.
Yep.
How'd you feel about that?
That one was really shocking. Getting traded from Milwaukee to Seattle, that offseason was kind of like, okay, like something might happen here. Didn't obviously know for sure. Ended up getting traded from Milwaukee to Seattle during our oldest daughter's baby shower, middle of this baby shower. So just opened up gifts, a bunch of Brewers onesies had to be returned. But but no, fast forward after Seattle, it was tough for me more so, not anything baseball wise. Young family, we just had our first daughter. We really kind of like felt at home in Seattle. A lot of guys in similar situations, guys that had been up and down AAA, the big leagues. A lot of guys with young families, either expecting their first child or just had their first child. So the wives and girlfriends group was very close. And so I think just getting the phone call, we were actually getting my daughter out of the bath that night, and I saw my phone ring, and I like looked over at my wife, and she's like, "All right, who's that?" at 9:00 at night, and so just seeing what she had to go through, obviously essentially saying goodbye to friends that she had made over the past 6-8 months, being in the sense that they spend more time during the season together than they do with us, because we're always on the road. When we're home, we're catching up on sleep, and it's just chaos of the season. But to see her have to go through that and kind of say we'll see you soon type thing was tough. But same thing, walking into the clubhouse day one in Minnesota, even after I was first traded, just getting the phone calls from front office. Rocco Baldelli called me. Everybody was extremely excited. After those initial phone calls, I was ready to go. I was same thing as trying to go out there and prove that they made the right choice of making this move and bringing me in, and getting into spring training. Same thing, a handful of guys that I knew going into camp from other organizations or playing with, against, stuff like that. And unfortunately, that first year I had a knee injury and missed a lot of time. But thankfully, we joke that like as a reliever, you feel like you always get traded, and here we are. We've been in Minnesota going on the third season, so we're feeling more and more at home every year, every month.
Well, and the journey that it took to get there just makes it all that much sweeter, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. I was saying actually last week that we had Twins Fest, and somebody brought that up, and traded all that stuff, playing indie ball. It's the story of my career. It's the story of just baseball in a nutshell for my life, and I wouldn't change it one bit. I think everything happens for reasons. Just being able to have those experiences and propel us to what's coming next has been a lot of fun, and it keeps us on our toes.
Sounds like it. Okay, I'm going to kind of rapid fire you here a little to end the interview. I think I might know, based on what you said and what I've read about you, the answer to the first one. But if you had to pick someone who's had the biggest, most positive influence on you in your career outside of your family, but in baseball, who would that be?
Oh, that's tough. I have a handful of people. Everybody that I work with in the off season has been amazing. I've worked with the same strength coach, the same pitching coach, PT for the past 8 years. And so I mean, those guys just get me ready for the season. They kind of see me more than my wife sees me here in the off season at times. So I'd say them, Robert Bina, George Zirkle, and Jordan Bernstein. Those three are my guys in the off season. Everything that happens to prep for a season goes through them, and those relationships I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I wouldn't be where I am in the big leagues now without them. And then I'm probably also just, I guess, still playing here with my manager in indie ball. Him calling me, kind of keeping the flame the flame going here of playing. And like I said, I was hoping he wasn't going to call, but I'm very glad he did.
Total generational thing here. When I asked you that question, I had some expectations about what you might say, but one of them was not your kind of the team that works with you outside of this season. I grew up in a time where professional athletes kind of did that themselves, and I lose track of the fact that not just that it's a 12-month-a-year job, but there are so many other people that are in your life helping you with that. On the flip side of helping, you don't have to name names here, but in your journey, has there been anybody that's been like just awful to you and like, God, I'm glad I'm away from that person? Again, you don't have to name names, but a situation, or has it mostly been positive?
No, I think it's mostly been positive. I really haven't come across anyone that has had like a negative impact. I think as baseball players and as athletes, just in general, I tell people all the time, especially young kids, like try to gather as much information as you can. It might not work for you, but at least you have that information. You can apply it in one sense. And if you listen to somebody about one thing and you try it and, hey, it doesn't work for me, well, at least you went through it. And it's not one of those situations of like, maybe if I did try that, or if I did listen to this person or that person, maybe it would have changed something down the road. But I think for me, it's just having those relationships. I try to get very close with my teammates, coaches, training staff, even the clubbies, like have great relationships with a lot of those guys. I think the fraternity of baseball is extremely cool in the sense that we have guys from all over the world, whether it be international guys, Dominican, guys at Asia, Japan, Korea. So being able to like kind of have this common ground of baseball and it's really cool in the sense you can learn so much. You can learn different training methods that somebody has been doing for years that you've never heard of. Or on the flip side, like for me, I had gone through an off season when I was first released and when I was kind of playing indie ball. Someone approached me about throwing like plyometric balls, like overweight baseballs, or like they're almost like a rubber like filled baseball that were heavy. They're like overload, and there was other underload. And they approached me and they're like, "Hey, have you ever used plyo balls?" And I was like, at the time I had never even heard of them. And I was like, well, I'm in indie ball. What do I have to lose? If I get hurt again, then I'm done playing. If it works, then it works. And thankfully, like doing that, it kind of changed my training. It changed how I saw throwing programs and building arm strength and just overall off-season training. And we've adapted now to it's part of my routine every day. So in that sense, I think it's just like there's never bad advice within baseball. I think that I would like to believe that everyone has your best interest in mind as a player and wants to give you some information that's going to help. I'm not saying that that's the case with everybody, but just being able to input that, process it, and see if it works for you is huge in overall development.
And we mentioned at the beginning you're living in off season in southeastern Pennsylvania now. I would guess that when you were first a professional athlete, and then especially a first major leaguer, your wife and or fiance, girlfriend at the time, she probably did a decent amount of traveling with you and being a part of that. Now you have young kids. What is that dynamic going to be like with your family?
Yeah, they travel pretty much all year. They'll come down to spring training. They'll come home here and there for different occasions, doctor's visits, stuff like that. But for the most part, the past couple of years, really since I was in Seattle in 2023, was the first season that my wife and I sat down. We're like, okay, like I want you there. I want obviously our daughter was just born, so like I want you guys to be there 24/7 as much as possible. So we've navigated that pretty well. I think I put a lot on her plate for finding rental properties to live at and do the flight thing and all that, especially when we're on the road and let's say we're traveling to LA and her and the girls want to come. It's like, okay, well, they have to book their own flight. Obviously, they can stay at the hotel with us, but navigating that, getting to the airport and shuttles and rental cars and all that stuff, it's a lot of work. It's even more so, more of a job than it is, I think, being a mom. I think there's more of a job even on her plate of all the additional stuff of navigating the baseball life and all that. And yeah, we've navigated it really well, and it's all kudos to her. And I wouldn't want to change anything in the sense of them being able to travel during the year and experience the things that we can experience with that travel.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things when I see it either live at a game or on TV, the family days, and the guys are out there and their wives are with them and the little kiddos are running around. Just what a, you know, depending on how long you play, will be how much memory they have of it. But what a memory for you and your wife to have for the rest of your lives to know that they got to experience that.
Yeah, I always say to people, the one maybe little regret I have that I might have in my career is that we didn't have kids sooner so that they could experience it longer. Obviously, had no idea that one, my career would be still going on at this point. But it's so I even as a young player, debuting 2020, 2021, like after the games, and you come in after the game, we had just won, and you turn around and all the guys, kids are kind of just running around and getting experience that they're have those friendships for the rest of their lives. Every team that we've been on has been great they have a kids room for the kids. So my wife gets a little break during the games. She can just drop her off, and it's kind of like a daycare setup. They have a playroom. They can read books. They have dinner there. So the teams do it right in that sense. We have that family aspect. Obviously there's the team aspect, but the wives are a very close-knit group in professional sports, especially baseball, like I said, with all the moving parts. So it's always fun for me to have them involved. And like you said, with the family days and the family trips that we have during the season, there's a trip each year that they fly out on the team flight with us. So it's the plane is packed and kids are everywhere. There's the screaming, the crying, but I think the young guys that aren't married and have kids are a little annoyed, but it's fun for us. We get to have that experience, and it's stuff. I mean, even my daughter now, she'll be 3 in March, and she says she'll like name some of her friends from the kids room from last year, and we'll be like, oh, like, are you ready to go into the kids room, the playroom? And she's excited. So now that she's getting older and can kind of remember those relationships, I wouldn't want her to grow up in any other situation. I think just the diversity of baseball and her being able to experience being around many different people and different kids from different backgrounds, it'll only benefit her in the long run.
That's amazing. I knew nothing of them having that for players. That's super cool. Last 2 questions. These are borderline dumb, but they're not my responsibility. Like I said, I had some friends send me one. One of them was, what is the craziest thing you've seen a young lady do in order to meet a baseball player?
Man, I don't think I've ever seen anything too crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to audible this one. I don't think. Obviously, like we get to the hotel some nights and there's a group of fans, and none of them are there for me. They're all for for Correa or Buxton. Correa last year, Buxton last year. When I was in Seattle, it was for Julio. But I haven't seen anything too crazy. Just maybe I've seen people just like start crying, which I guess meeting your heroes is an emotional process at times. So maybe that one that might be the answer, but nothing too crazy.
Good. And you were a bat boy for a minor league Mets team growing up, right?
Yep. Yeah. Double A Mets in Binghamton, New York. So I started doing that when I was in, I guess when I was middle school. I think the first year technically I could be on the job. I was 14 or 15 years old. And yeah, I did it pretty much middle school, pretty much through high school. Once I was a senior in college, was getting ready, and baseball was obviously very prevalent at that point. To get ready for the season and all that, it kind of didn't do as many games, but from freshman year, sophomore year, like those 2 or 3 years span was almost every game that they were in town for, both the home side and the visiting side. So it's kind of cool now, and I make people feel very old when we have a couple announcers for the Twins that like I would remember being their bat boy when they were playing in Double A when they came through Binghamton. So I'll mention that to them, and they're like, "Oh man, you're making me feel even older than what I what I am." But yeah, that was I think that on top of just falling in love with the game, being around my dad and playing catch in the backyard and traveling to minor league games when I was younger. I think that just being around professional baseball at a young age, it was kind of like, okay, this is what I would love to do. Um, and you kind of understood at a young age what hard work, dedication, how much time it took. Like I said, I think the general person thinks that you just 7 o'clock game, you get there at 5, 6 o'clock and kind of just throw the cleats on, grab a glove, and go out and play. But you get there at noon. There's workouts, scouting reports, and it only gets crazier as you go up closer to the big leagues. And you get into the big leagues, the amount of meetings and stuff we have, and everything that goes into it just for that 2.5, 3 hour game. It's kind of crazy. So seeing that as a young kid that wanted to pursue baseball at the next level, I think it helped, one, humble me in the sense, and two, kind of see what that hard work and dedication, what needed to go into to your training to get ready to be at that point.
And did you have a favorite New York Met growing up?
So ironically, I was a Yankees fan,
Oh,
which is funny. A lot of those guys, I still talk to a handful of those guys that played when I was a bat boy. Every once in a while, there's a pitcher that played in the big leagues. His name was Matt Lindstrom. I was really close with him. Still talk to him a couple times a year. But guys like David Wright, Jose Reyes, some pitchers like Mike Pelfrey, Scott Kazmir, guys that had played in the big leagues for a long time,
big
kind
game
of
too.
got their start in Binghamton. And so I got to be around them kind of day in and day out. And I was that kid that was down near the dugout when I wasn't working, getting autographs and stuff like that. So I was full fledged into to trying to be around those guys and learn as much as I could at a young age.
And you were a huge baseball card collector. I've read that. So I know you know history. You're a
Yep.
twin now. Do you have a favorite twin ever?
Favorite twin ever. I'm gonna audible to a current teammate just because he's the man. When he's healthy, he's arguably one of the best players in the game. Is Byron Buxton. I think that just watching him and what he can do to impact a game, whether it be on defense, playing center field, on the bases, stealing 25, 30 bases a year. He hit 25, 30 home runs. I'm probably way off, but it felt like 50. Every time he would get up to the plate, it was like, okay, something really cool is about to happen. So I'm going to audible to Buck, but I think just the history of the Twins, and I never got to see like Kirby Puckett play. Um, what he meant to the organization just from being around the past couple of years, guys like him, Rod Carew, Tony Oliva, Burt Blylev, and all those guys, Joe Mauer. I got Joe's autograph when I was a bat boy in Double A, and
Sweet.
now he walks into the clubhouse, and it's kind of a surreal moment. But just like being around those guys at spring training, pretty much all the older Hall of Famers are in and out during spring training during the season. Twins Fest that like I said, we just had last week. They were all kind of around, so having even a small relationship with them and being around those guys is very. I have to like pinch myself a lot. Like you said, as a baseball fan of the history of the game and a baseball card collector, I use baseball cards to kind of learn when I was a kid to learn about different players and different organizations and stuff like that. And I've kind of fallen in love with that card collecting, but also in turn learning the history of the game. So being able to play with a handful of organizations up to this point, and like I said, the history with the Twins, and even when I was in Seattle for the year, one of the first days in spring training, Ichiro was standing there while we're playing catch, and I would kind of walk past, and he comes over and he's like, "Justin, nice to meet you." And I'm like,
Oh,
how'd you know my name? And two,
yeah, right.
you speak English? But no, so having like a little relationship with him, seeing him every day, meeting Ken Griffey Jr. Like I grew up playing Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest on N64, and now he's just hanging out, like, talking to the guys and just having like a cool little relationship. And same in Milwaukee, learn the history of the game there, and the Ricky Weeks that were around. Obviously, Yelich is a star in Milwaukee. Being able to play with him for 3, almost 4 years was awesome. Brian Braun, I got to be with him during his last season in 2020, and he signed a bat for me and somewhere in the house near. But just having those experiences, that is what I'll remember more than anything when it's all said and done.
And your pitching coach is LaTroy Hawkins, is that right?
Yep, Hawk. Yeah, I was actually with him last week during Twins Fest. We had our little caravan leg together. So yeah, 21. I got it down after 2 days with him. 21 years in the big leagues, 11 teams. So
I was going to say the Yankees, cool. I think, were one of them, right?
Yeah, Yankees. He was in Colorado for a while. Obviously, Minnesota. He rattled them off the other day, and I couldn't keep track. But I think he was in Toronto maybe for a little bit. But yeah, so yeah, it'll be cool. Especially, I've had a relationship with him the past couple of years. He's been around as an analyst on the TV side and radio side of stuff. But to be down there in the bullpen with him every day, it's going to be cool to pick his brain and see how he sees the game.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. I'm glad it ended up working out, and we could jump on here for a little bit.
For sure. Good luck this season, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's all for now, folks. See you next week.